Hi, welcome to this video on how to bleed Hope Tech brakes. This works with the Tech Evo levers that I'm showing you here, and also with the Tech 3 levers you'll see in a minute. I'm particularly using this with the X2 caliper, but it works with the M4, the V4 and the E4. You can see a Tech 3 lever here. So the tools you're going to need are some Allen keys to remove stuff from the bars, an 8mm spanner to open the bleed nipple, a T10 Torx key for the reservoir cover, some .5.1 brake fluid, some syringes, some protective gear, eyewear and gloves, and a plastic bottle with plastic tube on. So the first thing to do is to set your lever so that it's as close to horizontal as possible. And that's the first thing to do. Now, I'm pretty clumsy when I do this, so I tend to try to remove everything else from the bars, any of the other bar hardware. So I've got a little bell there and a dropper post remote, so I get rid of those. I wrap it in tissue, and that's also why I use the syringes. You don't actually need the syringes. It's not like some of the kits like the Shimano bleed where you need a syringe to push the brake fluid in. You don't. You could just pour it from the bottle, but I'm always concerned that I spill it onto other things, and the brake fluid is pretty corrosive and nasty stuff, so I try not to spill it on things. That's why I move all this stuff off the bars. You need to remove your rear wheel. I've got a through axle here that bolts through, so I'm just removing that and remembering to lock out the clutch mech if you've got that, or turn the clutch off if you've got a Shimano mech. Just take that wheel out, get it out of the way. And of course, once you've done this, you obviously need to take the pads out with their little retaining pin, and then you need to put either a bleed block, or I just use a piece of folded up card in to keep the pistons back in their position. You take the rubber cap off the bleed nipple and fit the 8mm spanner onto the bleed nipple, and then you're going to need to put your plastic bottle with its tube connected up. That's basically where the extra waste brake fluid is going to go. And again, so that I've not got the weight of that bottle supported by the tube only, I just use a little bit of wire, garden wire, and hook it over the frame so it's supporting the weight of the bottle. There's not going to be much weight in there. You then use your Torx T10 key to take the reservoir cover off, the master cylinder reservoir cover off. Don't lose the screws. And I wrap it up at this point because this is where I'm going to start to expose brake fluid, and then as soon as I start to take it off, you'll see I put on the protective gloves. Once you take off the brake reservoir cover, you'll see inside there's a rubber diaphragm. It usually sticks to the lid. You need to just peel it off gently, but just use your fingers, don't use a screwdriver or a pick or anything. You don't want to put any holes or nicks in that at all. Put that safe somewhere. Wedging the pistons in with the bit of cardboard, and as I say, you can see I've got my syringe of brake fluid there. Don't need a syringe just because I'm clumsy. So the procedure that you're going to follow is to open the brake nipple with a spanner, squeeze the brake lever, close the brake nipple, let go the lever. And if you do see what I do here, as I squeeze the lever, and then you can see in the background close the nipple, and I let go the lever, fluid is actually sucked down and taken into the system. It's very, very little fluid actually that you need to use. You're talking a real small amount, so you don't need to worry that you've not got too much left. The key thing is when you release the brake lever, keep an eye on the level of brake fluid in the master cylinder, because you don't want that to go down too far, otherwise you'll introduce air into the system again. Keep your eyes on the tube at the far end. What you're looking for is brake fluid coming through there, and initially it'll have air bubbles in it because that's what you're trying to get rid of. You're trying to bleed the air out of the brakes. Eventually, after maybe a few squeezes, it should be there are no air bubbles in there. Once you've got a couple of squeezes where you've had no air bubbles, that's when you know that you've actually bled the brake successfully, and you should be able to start to finish off then. So you can see, open the brake nipple, squeeze the lever, close the brake nipple, let go. Here you can see some of the air bubbles just going through with that brake fluid just in the tube there. Keep it topped up all the time. This is me using the syringe to do that. You can just pour from the bottle, but as I said, I'm a bit clumsy and I don't want to spill brake fluid everywhere. When you're finished, you need to put the diaphragm in. You roll the diaphragm in. That means that no air is in the system. You can see a little bit of fluid does spill out there, but I roll it from the back towards the front, and then you put the master cylinder reservoir cap back on, the Torx T10 screws, do them up, and again I tend to just get them seated first of all, and then I screw the back one up tight first, and then the front one, so that any air is pushed out under the front of the seal, so there's no air in that at all. Clean up any fluid, make sure you clear it all up. It's really not very nice stuff, it's corrosive and pretty bad on your skin and on bike paint as well, so make sure you get a good wipe around with tissue on that. Pop the pads back into the caliper, a bit fiddly, and then make sure you thread your retaining bolt into there and get that in and done up. Now at this point the pads won't be anywhere near the disc when you put the wheel in, that's okay. You need to pop your wheel back in, but you'll find that because it's a closed system, once you pump the brake, once you've got the wheel back in, once you pump the brake lever a few times, the pads will come into contact with the disc, the rotor, and then you'll be able to adjust them as such. Once you've got everything back on, then you need to adjust the angle of the brake lever again to make sure it's okay, and you can see there just a quick few pumps, and then there we go, the brake lever is working fine and not feeling spongy anymore, which is why I bled it in the first place. Then you need to put all the other hardware back on the bar, so I'm putting my dropper post on, and you can see I fit the bell back on. The thing here is just to make sure you get it back at the right angle to be comfortable. Thanks for watching.